more than a decade, more than 150,000 hospitalizations and 9,000 deaths. It comes as the U.S. surpasses 100 million COVID cases, and record cases of RSV are peaking. Hospitals being pushed to the limit. Also breaking tonight, the January 6th committee set to vote. Will they make criminal referrals for former President Trump to the DOJ for the attack on the Capitol? What sources are telling NBC News. The nor'easter battering millions with snow, ice, and rain after the system swept across the country. We're tracking it. The major new wave of Russian missile strikes across Ukraine, widespread power outages. Our team on the ground there tonight. Twitter abruptly suspending several high-profile journalists who cover owner Elon Musk. The reason the billionaire gave for the bans. And the kids sharing their Christmas wishes and their language with the Santa who's inspiring America.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. The country's not healthy right now. Hospital beds in some places full as so many are battling respiratory viruses. The CDC tonight reporting flu activity remains high and COVID cases are on the rise, just as a projected 113 million Americans gear up to travel this holiday. Officials say last week alone there were 23,000 patients with the flu admitted to hospitals. For the season, the worst in a decade, there have been 15 million flu illnesses and over 9,000 flu deaths. And while officials cautiously watch a decline in flu cases in some areas, COVID infections are climbing once more, up by almost 40% the past 2 weeks, and deaths up 25%, as the country surpasses another pandemic milestone, 100 million recorded COVID cases. The brightest spot tonight, a continued slowing of RSV cases. Miguel Almaguer now with late details.
Tonight, a growing number of medical centers nationwide, including Albuquerque's UNM Hospital, are in need of a lifeline. RSV, flu, and COVID cases, the feared Tripledemic, all converging, pushing doctors and nurses to the brink.
For the last 6 to 8 weeks, we have been over 100% capacity. We just physically do not have enough beds for all of the patients that we need to take care of.
As hospitals struggle, the CDC says flu infections appear to be declining in some areas, though still dramatically outpacing last year's numbers. In over 10 weeks, more than 9,300 flu deaths, 150,000 hospitalizations, the most of any flu season in more than a decade. COVID infections are also up 40% over 2 weeks, as fatalities climb 25%, though cases remain far below pandemic highs. As record RSV cases are peaking,
it just happened so fast.
Jordan Marquez says after 3-month-old Amaya caught COVID, it was RSV that nearly took her life.
Every day she was just laying there and like, who knows if her lungs were going to get better or not.
This hospital, like so many others across the country, is overwhelmed, now putting 2 cribs in each room to handle the influx of children. Outside, a triage tent in a parking lot is taking adult patients the medical center can't handle.
Across the country, with ER wait times stretching for hours, 12% of deaths last week were attributed to influenza, COVID-19, or pneumonia.
What's happening, huh?
Tonight, a grim reality on the front lines, as the very places where many turn for help are now in need of it themselves.
And Miguel, we saw a surge in cases following Thanksgiving week. So what are doctors saying about large gatherings over the December holidays?
Well, Lester, they're worried about them. Just like Thanksgiving, they expect large family and friend gatherings over the Christmas break, and they're worried they could see another big spike in RSV, flu, and COVID cases as early as January. Lester?
All right, Miguel, thank you. There is breaking news on the House January 6th committee and whether it will make criminal referrals to the Justice Department involving former President Trump. Andrea Mitchell is following this. Andrea, what do we know at this point?
Well, tonight, Lester, NBC News has learned that the House January 6th committee is actively considering recommending that the Justice Department charge former President Trump with 3 potential crimes: insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress, and conspiracy. But no final decision has been made, according to 3 sources actively involved in the deliberations. While all three recommendations are possible, committee members will be meeting this weekend to decide what to recommend when the panel holds its final public meeting on Monday. Referrals have no legal weight. The Justice Department makes the final decision over whether to prosecute. The committee's final report is expected to be released next Wednesday. Lester?
Andrew Mitchell with that breaking news. Thank you. Millions remain under winter weather alerts as that massive storm now hits the Northeast. Kathy Park spent the day in the center of it all in Syracuse, New York. Kathy?
Million people in the New England area are under winter storm warnings due to the threat of heavy snow. It's the same system that pushed through central New York today.
Tonight, wintry weather slamming the Northeast and New England.
It's pretty bad right now.
In Syracuse, New York, a dangerous mix of snow, ice, and rain.
Were the roads pretty slick and slushy? What was it like?
Slush is the word.
At times, crews struggling to keep up.
It's nonstop today.
Areas of higher elevation buried in several inches of snow. The slick conditions no match for cars and pedestrians. This comes as another major storm begins to take shape just days before the holiday. Temperatures could plunge to bone-chilling levels, making this Christmas the coldest in decades. Meanwhile, millions in the Great Plains are still digging out from blizzard conditions that buried portions of the Dakotas and Duluth, Minnesota. The same system that marched across the country all week devastated the South as tornadoes tore through, killing at least 3.
Every day I'm going to be here every day until I get my house back.
At least 39 confirmed twisters touched down across 7 states, leveling homes and businesses in parts of Louisiana and left a trail of destruction in Florida. As the storm takes its final bow, Arctic air is moving in for the next act. Wind chills in Chicago to hit the single digits this weekend, while in Bismarck and Minneapolis falling below 0. Just a preview of what's to come next week, with record cold and a possible winter storm on the horizon for the holidays. Kathy Park, NBC News, Syracuse, New York.
In Ukraine tonight, an intense new Russian bombardment of Kyiv and other cities, a punishing assault leaving most residents in the capital without power or water in sub-freezing temperatures. Ellison Barber is there.
Tonight, Russian strikes narrowly missing terrified drivers on a Ukrainian highway. Part of a massive Russian bombardment, at least 76 missiles, according to Ukraine. The majority fired at Kyiv. Russia again targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, taking out power and heat during a frigid winter. In Poltava, doctors finished a heart operation amid a blackout. Much of this neighborhood is dark, but this school is a refuge with heat, electricity, and internet. It's one of thousands of what Ukraine calls points of invincibility, safety and humanitarian shelters located throughout Ukraine. Darka is among those finding some relief. She and her husband are expecting a baby girl.
I am on 8 months pregnant.
And Russia's persistent attacks on the power grid are forcing them to prepare for the possibility of a delivery in the dark.
I even know, now I learned how to have delivery in a shelter. And I don't know what I'm going to do.
She's thought about leaving, but her husband, like all men of military age here, would not be able to go with her.
I don't want to leave my husband. I just live day by day.
Ukraine's President Zelensky continues to ask allies for more robust air defenses. U.S. defense officials tell NBC News the administration is close to finalizing plans to provide Ukraine with the Patriot missile system. Lester?
Ellison, thank you. Yet another controversy tonight involving Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, who has called himself a free speech absolutist, but has just suspended the accounts of a number of journalists. Ann Thompson has details.
This Twitter fight is about information, and when too much information is dangerous. Twitter's rules say when you reveal live location information about another person, it's a violation. Owner Elon Musk calls it doxing. On a Twitter space call last night, Musk said the rules apply to everyone, including journalists.
So, no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended. End of story.
Even if you just link to a site that offers publicly available information.
You dox, you get suspended. End of story. That's it.
Then Musk abruptly left the call. Earlier this week, Twitter suspended the account ElonJet that tracks Musk's private jet using public information. Independent journalist Aaron Ruper thinks that has something to do with his suspension.
I know that I was suspended for posting a link to the ElonJet Facebook page.
Along with several independent journalists, reporters from the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and Voice of America were also suspended. Those organizations protested with words like unfortunate and unjustified. Musk tweeted his justification. Criticizing me all day long is totally fine, but doxing my real-time location and endangering my family is not. Musk said the suspensions would last 7 days, showing the limits of what can be said in a public square that is privately owned. Ann Thompson, NBC News.
We turn now to our exclusive reporting on a troubling trend. As we approach the holiday travel rush, the TSA says it has confiscated a record number of guns at airports this year, and most were loaded. Here's Tom Costello.
The collection of weapons discovered at U.S. airports is stunning. Lots of guns hidden in a PlayStation, stuffed inside a raw chicken, bags and boxes of ammo. So far this year, 6,300 guns confiscated at TSA checkpoints, a record. On track to surpass 6,600 by year's end, 10% more than last year. And nearly all were loaded. TSA Chief David Pekoski at the agency's training center in Virginia.
Why does this keep happening? Well, I think people carrying guns is much more prevalent in the United States. Most passengers tell us when we discover their firearm in the carry-on bag that they forgot it was there. I think that all by itself is a problem. But clearly, you cannot bring a firearm into a checkpoint. You cannot bring a firearm onto an aircraft.
The airports with the most gun confiscations: Atlanta, DFW, Houston Intercontinental, Nashville with the highest per passenger ratio, and Phoenix. The TSA screens nearly 5.5 million bags every single day at 430 airports nationwide. The challenge is the same at every one, detecting every possible explosive, every knife, every gun. The TSA showed us what a gun looks like when it goes through the CT scanner.
We keep it in the scanner because, we don't want anyone or the person that does have it, if they do have ill intent, to grab it and use it in a public area.
While police prosecute according to local gun laws, the TSA is now raising the federal fine up to $15,000 for bringing a gun to a checkpoint.
If you're a pre-check passenger, we will also revoke your pre-check privileges for a period of time.
As the country's proliferation of guns spreads to airports, too. Tom Costello, NBC News, Arlington, Virginia.